Good morning to all of us. We are the Group 5 and we are here to present the cutting tools. So these are the terms that we will encounter as we touch on the topic. Cold metal cutting. Cold metal may be cut with a hacksaw, cut-off saw, band saw, bolt cutter, file, snips, or shears or a cold chisel. Hence, as this report mentioned tools, this will obviously discuss different tools that cuts cold metal. Cold metal cutting. Cold metal cutting tools are divided into categories depending on their power source, either hand or power. The operator provides the power for operating the hand tools, while power tools rely on a source other than the operator for power. So good morning to all of us. I am Cruz Eloisa Aubry, and I will be the one to discuss the different types of tin snips or shears. Tin snips or shears are large scissor-like tools for cutting sheet metal and fabrics. So as I have said, tin snips is basically a large or big scissors. As it also mentioned in the previous slide, this tool is dependent by your own pressure. So hand snips are divided into two groups. Those for straight cuts are as follows: straight snips, combination snips, bulldog snips. And for the circular cuts, which are the circle snips, hawksbill snips, aviation snips, and Trojan snips. So with this thought, we can't just use a mere kind of tin snips in all aspects. There are different kinds of tin snips and they have their respected uses. And as you can see here, the photo that you're currently seeing right now is an example of a aviation snip, which I will explain later on as well as the other types of snips. Straight snips. The snips have straight jaws for straight line cutting. They are not point to ensure strength. They are available for both left hand and right hand use. So this shear is what we usually see, or should I say that this is what we commonly encounter whenever we are in a warehouse. The straight shear is what our tatay always use in cutting hierro or sheet metals. Combination snips. Straight jaws for straight cutting, but the inner faces of the jaws are sloped for cutting curved as well as irregular shapes. These shears are available in the same sizes and capacities as straight snips. So unlike the straight snips, which is for straight cutting purposes, this one is a combination as the name obviously present. This can be used either straight or curved. Circle snips. Circle snips have curved blades and are used for making circular cuts. They come in the same sizes and capacities as straight snips, and either right or left hand types are available. As the name implies, this snips is just for making circular cuts. You can use it you can use it in making straight cuts, but it won't meet your expectation as the straight snips could give. Hawksbill snips. Hawksbill snips are used to cut small radius inside and outside a circle. The narrow curved blade allows sharp turns without buckling the sheet metal. Useful for cutting holes in pipe, in furnace hoods, and in close quarters work. Trojan snips. These snips are used for straight or curved cutting. These snips can be used to cut outside curves and can also be used in place of other types of snips. This snips is just like the combination snip but only in a different look, but also this can be used in other purposes. So this is the aviation snip that I introduced a while ago. So aviation snips. Aviation snips have hardened blades that enable them to cut hard metal or hard material. They are useful for cutting circles, for cutting squares, and for cutting compound curves in sheet metal. So as you can see on the photo, the handles of the Aviation snips are in various colors, and for you to know that this is not for aesthetic intention or aesthetic purposes, this color or those color are representing their objective or their uses. So the red-handled snips cut right-handed metal curve. Yellow-handled snips cut straight, while the green-handled snips cut left-handed metal curve. What processes and techniques are used when cutting with a snips and shear? Snips or shears are used for cutting sheet metal and fabrics. So the first one to remember for when it comes to cutting a fabrics or sheet metal is first be sure that we are wearing a glasses or safety glasses are worn. The second one is mark the material to be filed. The third one is place the stock in a vise or clamp it to the table. The fourth one is it is advisable to wear gloves when handling and working with sheet metal. Fifth, select the correct shears for the job to be done, which we tackled a while ago, the different respected uses. Select a pair of shears that are sharp and free of nicks. The sixth one or the last one is a piece of scrap should be cut first to be sure the shears are heavy enough. The seventh or the last one, shears are used like scissors. For them to work well, the metal must curl or lift up and out of the shear as the cut progresses. So this is the photo.
Good morning, I am Rosalinda Cueto, and for the next type of cutting tool, what I will present to you is the cold chisel. So cold chisel are used to cut shear or chip cold metal. So itong chisel is mas kilala natin sa tawag na pait. So alam ko namang familiar tayo doon. This is used with a hammer in a two-handed operation. So how or why, bakit kaya in two-handed operation? This is because sa paggamit ng pait or ng cold chisel, involved parehas yung dalawang kamay natin, wherein one hand holds the chisel against the work, meaning yung isang kamay natin is nakahawak mismo dun sa main tool or dun sa chisel, then nakatuon naman siya dun sa mismong metal na ikakat natin, and then the other hand taps the another kind of tool, which is the hammer, na siya nating ipinupukpok doon sa chisel for us to proceed or in order for us to make the cutting. And we have four kinds of chisel depending on the shapes of their cutting edges. We have flat chisel, cape, diamond point, and a half round nose chisel. So later madidiscuss natin isa-isa, but before that, let's have the parts of the chisel. As you can see, we have the head, the topmost part of each chisel. Then the stock or yung body. It is made of either 4, 6, or 8 sides so that it is easy for us to hold or grip it. Then the cutting angle. In cutting a metal, the cutting angle ay isa sa dapat nating i-consider. Dahil nakadepende kung anong type ng metal ba yung ikakat natin. For example, if yung metal is hard, ang cutting angle ay mas malaki dapat. But in cutting soft metals, the cutting angle should be less or mas maliit. And then we have the cutting edge. So ito yung mismong or pinaka-blade ng chisel, and this is the part of the chisel that performs the function of cutting. Now for the first type of cold chisel, we have flat chisel. Flat chisel are the most commonly used for general cutting work. The cutting edge of the flat chisel is broad, and as you can notice, yung corner niya is slightly rounded kasi it will prevent the chisel to dig in or para yun nga hindi siya bumaon masyado sa metal. For the use of flat chisel, it chip metal from a flat surface, cut thin metal sheets, and it cut rivets and bolts. The next type of chisel is the cape chisels. This is also called the cross-cut chisels and are used for cutting narrow, flat grooves and slats. And also, as you can notice here, the cutting edge is slightly wider than its body. So, para saan yun? This is to avoid na mag-bind o lumapat yung chisel into the deep grooves, or kumbaga, hindi siya maging sagabal habang nagkakat tayo ng metal. The third one is the round nose chisels. These are used to cut concave grooves. Ginagamit din ito in doing special works like forming channels on a metal. The last type is the diamond point chisels. These are used to cut grooves and to square corners. Also, this is used for cleaning out the square internal angles and also squaring the material corners of the metal. So those are the different types of cold chisels. Again, the flat chisel, the cape chisel, the round nose chisel, and the diamond point chisels. Now the last part of my report is about the techniques and processes in using cold chisels. First, be sure safety glasses are worn. Before we carry out a task or a job, we must ensure that we have obtained the necessary protective equipment in order for us to carry out the task safely. Then mark the material to be chiseled. Select the correct chisel for the job. For example, kapag nagkakat tayo ng metal surfaces, hindi naman pwede na yung gagamitin nating tool or chisel is made of wood because it will easily break. Then make sure the edge is in good condition. So kailangan the cutting surface or yung pinaka-blade ng chisel should be or must be sharp enough or walang ukab, kumbaga. Place the stock in a vise or clamp it to the table. Watch the edge of the chisel as you work. Sharp, quick blows are best. And after each blow, it is better to reset the chisel or meaning one blow at a time kapag nagkakat tayo. Lastly, use a hammer that is heavy enough to perform a task. Meaning, if big yung chisel na gagamitin natin, syempre, kailangan na heavy enough din ang martilyo na gagamitin or ipampupokpok. This is because a small hammer with a big chisel will only make the job very difficult. So that's all for my report.
Good morning to all of you. My name is James Conanan and the next cutting tool is the hacksaw. Hacksaw is a tool often used for cutting metal. Hacksaw is a saw with a frame and blade designed for cutting metal. They are designed so new blades can be installed easily. Then another definition for hacksaw. Only the teeth are hardened on the flexible blades. They are used for sawing light and hollow materials. Hacksaw blades vary in type and size. All hard blades are hardened throughout and are used for sawing heavy work, tool steel, cast iron, and brass. Hand hacksaw blades are made in 8-inch, 10-inch, and 12-inch length, with 14, 18, 24, or 32 teeth per inch. So next, the three hacksaw teeth patterns, the rocker, alternate, and the undulated or wavy. Installing a hacksaw blade. First, make a certain teeth are pointed away from handle and place holes in blade over both pins. Then, add the tension blade. Hacksaw's metal cutting power tools, hacksaw, bandsaw, and cut-off saw. The power hacksaw has a reciprocating movement which operates similar to the hand hacksaw. However, it cuts much faster. The frame holds a rigid blade which is 3/4 inch to 1 inch wide and 12 inches to 18 inches long. Blades are available with fine to coarse teeth. So next, horizontal bandsaw. A horizontal bandsaw have a blade that travels on wheels and moves through rollers and guides, and so parallel to the ground. Blade movement is forward at all times, so it cuts continuously, which result in faster cutting than power hacksaw. Next, metal cut-off saw. Metal cut-off saw, also known as chop saw, use a circular blade lowered into the material that is being cut. The cutting blade is an abrasive disc that provides a straight, clean cut. So next, what processes and techniques are used when cutting with the hacksaw? So number 1 is be sure safety glasses are worn. Next, select a blade with enough teeth per inch so that 2 or 3 teeth are contact with the metal at all times. There must be a few enough teeth to the inch to allow the gullets to carry off the chips without clogging. Next, fasten the blades into the hacksaw frame with the teeth pointing away from the handle of the saw. Make sure the blade is fastened securely so that it will not twist and break. Next, mark the stock at the point at which it is to be cut. Place the stock in the vise with a mark about 1.5 inch from the jaws. Sewing close to the jaws of the vice makes the sewing easier because the piece is held firmly and does not spring back and forth. Next, place the saw on the mark and then pull it toward you using little pressure to start the curve. To help get the saw started in proper place, a notch can be cut at the mark with a file. Next, apply slight pressure on the forward strokes of the hacksaw and release the pressure on the return strokes to ensure proper cutting and to lessen the danger of breaking the blade of the saw. Next, run the saw evenly, using long strokes with all teeth cutting to prevent wear or small portion of the blade, thus shortening the life of the blade. And lastly, thin metal can be cut more easily with the hacksaw if a thin piece of wood is clamped on each side of the metal. That's all and thank you.